Here now with more on the debate over the newly passed nation-state bill is Knesset member with the Likud party Sharren Haskel and Deputy Knesset Speaker and Zionist Union Knesset member Hilik Bar. Thank you both very much for coming in today and coming back to the studio. So my first question for you, Sharren, is what are your thoughts on this bill? First of all.
Well, I'll say that unfortunately the Zionist Union didn't vote with us on this legislation. I think it's going to be reviewed negatively if we look on history, in the future of history. This bill is so important. I mean, if we want to have a future constitution, and the foundation legislation is our future constitution, this has to be inscribed in it. I mean, the definition of our culture, of our language, of our symbols, of the name of the State of Israel is a part that you cannot separate from, the overview of how you want to see the vision, the cultural vision of the State of Israel. Obviously, all Israeli citizens have completely equal rights, civilian rights. It doesn't speak about education. It doesn't speak about, property legislation or anything like that, but specifically about the culture. And we decided to found the only Jewish state in the world and to put that in our future constitution as well.
Was there nothing before that defined Israel?
So we had a Declaration of Independence, which is an official paper. But, for 70 years we've been speaking about a constitution. There's been a lot of disagreement, and Ben Gurion and other leadership couldn't come to a constitution. So we said throughout the years, slowly we'll build a constitution through the foundation laws. The national bill is something that cannot be separated. This is the spirit of the Declaration of Independence that we had. This is sort of the spirit of many legislation that describe the character of the State of Israel, including its symbols, but it actually put it in our future constitution. So it's extremely important to be legislated as well.
So what are your responses to this?
Yeah, well, Sharren mentioned that the Zionist Union didn't vote for it. She didn't mention that Yesh Atid didn't vote. 55 members of Knesset, most of them proud Zionists, didn't vote. Benny Begin, the son of the late Menachem Begin, didn't vote for this bill. So should Likud thought that maybe there is a problem with this bill? We were dying to support this bill. Actually, we suggested alternative for this bill because we thought that if once and for all, we are legislating a nation-state bill for the State of Israel. It should be as wider as it can in regards support of this bill. But they insisted in Likud, unfortunately, to make it a one-side show, taking out of this bill two simple words that any democracy have nothing to do with, of course. Democratic and equality.
They took these words, those words are not in the new bill?
And we begged them. Put inside, Minister Yariv Levin insisted to take out the word equality and democratic, and we asked why. Tzipi Livni and us went to the coalition and told them, listen, this is a celebration. Not that we need approval from anyone that we are the nation state of the Jewish people, like we don't need approval from anyone that Jerusalem is our capital. We support both things, but we wanted to be a celebration of the entire Knesset, maybe beside the 13 Arab members of Knesset. But the moment they took out the word equality and democratic, we were out of the game. We tried to convince them, we failed, and this is why this is not a big celebration. And I hope that, as Sharren expected, it will be historically, it will be an important thing. I can predict that it may be the opposite, unfortunately.
So I would say what we've been saying along the entire way. The meaning of that segment in the future constitution is to describe the symbol and the cultural aspect of the State of Israel. We have another segment that speaks about human rights and respect for the rights and liberties and freedom. And this is where the segment about democracy, about liberties, about equality needs to be in. It has nothing to do with
the democracy doesn't belong in a basic law?
Well, it is. And we had a basic law speaking about Chok Vod Adam V'Cheruto, the liberty of human being and its freedom. So it's another segment in the future constitution. It is a foundation law as well.
And but we're not in the future, we're in the present.
Exactly.
Why did you insist to take out equality and democratic from this very important bill.
Okay,
Why? What was the problem?
So the foundation law, who speaks about liberties and about human rights, this is the bill that actually describes exactly what you're saying, including democratic values, equality, and all of that. This is what the High Supreme Court is constantly ruling about the democratic
So again,
principles.
why to take it out of the bill? Why?
Because, first
I
of
have
all,
an answer.
so it is in a
No, it's
bill,
not
but
in a
it's in a different bill, which is a foundation law that has the exact same measure as the national law. The national law means to speak only about the character of our country. It speaks about our anthem, about language, about symbols. And so the idea of democracy, of equality, of freedom, this
Are
is
not
being
in the
described.
foundation of our party?
It is in
Of our
a
country?
different foundation law, and not this particular
And you know that it should have
foundation
been
law.
in. You know that it should have been in. But I will tell you what's the problem. First, in this kind of a bill, equality and democratic values should be in this bill, regardless if it's in another bill. But I think that the right wing today, and I'm not talking necessarily about Sharon, in his policies leads us in a way to a binational state. Okay, and I think that this is a very coward thing to legislate this kind of a bill when you know that your policy leads us to be one day, I hope I'm wrong, a minority in our own state. And then you need this kind of bills that will protect you from the Arab majority that will be the case in future of Israel if Likud will and the Jewish home will continue to drag us to this binational state thing.
So,
and yeah.
I'm sorry. So along those lines, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but along those lines, then, with this bill in place, would you consider Israel to be more of a democratic state or a Jewish state now that this bill is passed?
So I think that this is the exact problem of what this bill, what happened with this bill from the side of the opposition. They turn it into a political matter instead of a national, cultural issue for the Jewish people in Israel. Unfortunately, this is where they were trying to take it, to the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict and all the issues that are surrounding
does that have nothing
this.
to do with it?
Exactly. Look, obviously it's not detached completely, but I can also give you example. For example, Yoel Hassan, who's the whip of the opposition as well. He have signed in the past even not just this nationality bill, but also a even more grandiose sort of nationalistic bill. And so when some of Chilik's party already supported previous, more, let's call it, extreme bills in the past, why would they oppose such a more subtle bill like the one that we've actually passed yesterday?
What's in the bill.
And this is the problem. They are turning it into a political problem that speaks about the Israeli-Palestinian issue and not about the cultural aspect
Sharon,
of Israel.
with all due respect, first you said that we cannot detach the Israeli-Palestinian. When you have equality, when you have equal numbers between Israelis, Jews, and Arabs, between the river and the sea, we should think about the future. Okay, so it's not detached from it. However, we have I don't think that I have even one problem with what inside this bill. I have a serious problem with what outside of the bill. And this is why you are wrong. I can agree with most of the protocols and charters of this bill. But if I want to live in a Jewish and democratic state, the nation state of the Jewish people, which I'm committed to 100%, I cannot forget about equality and not about democratic. And I know that neither do you.
But I agree with you, absolutely. But this is why we've actually made sure that it is in one of the constitutional legislation which speak about human rights and liberties. Absolutely not. There's a specific segment for that in a constitution of every country.
So if it exists, why to not put it in the bill?
In a constitution of every country, you have different segments that speaks about different things. This is not the right segments to put it, but another segment. And I completely agree with you. And if you want to change it, you'll find a partner here as well.